What if the anxiety, heaviness, or patterns you've spent years trying to fix aren't actually problems to solve? What if they're messages? In a culture that teaches us to think our way through healing, today's conversation invites a different possibility. That some wounds live beyond words, beyond logic, and even beyond the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. My guest, Dr. Richard Grossman, has spent decades exploring the intersection of integrative medicine, somatic healing, and consciousness. Through a series of profound experiences, he began asking a question that would ultimately shape his life's work. What if healing isn't about changing the past, but about releasing attachment to carrying it? Whether you resonate with ancestral healing, past life exploration, plant medicine, or simply the idea that the body remembers what the mind forgets, this conversation will challenge the way you think about trauma, forgiveness, and transformation. Because sometimes the deepest healing doesn't happen when we understand the story. It happens when we finally loosen our grip on it. Have you ever noticed your skin reflects your stress? I used to struggle with mine, dry, dull, reactive, until I started pairing nervous system regulation with products that actually honor your body. That's why I love Milk and Butterflies. They handcraft every formula with 100% organic ingredients and powerful aromatherapy oils. They aren't just products for your skin, they're rituals that restore hydration, resilience, and calm even in the busiest seasons of our life. You can try them for yourself and feel the difference. Head to Milk and Butterflies and use my promo code Dr. Kelly for free shipping. That's DRKELLY for free shipping. Also, check out the link in the description for the podcast. Welcome back, Richard Grossman. I am so honored to have you back on the podcast. I had you on, I think it was late last year. So I can't wait to continue this conversation. It was so valuable what we talked about last time, and I'm sure it'll be just as valuable this time.
Indeed. I hope so too.
Yes. So what I want to start with, and we're just talking for a little bit, but I would love to start with your new book and really what inspired you to write this book? What is the backstory of the book?
Oh, it has so much backstory. It started actually the night of my first ayahuasca ceremony ever, where I was up in a beautiful house in the Malibu Hills. And this person I'd known since I was 18 years old actually had invited me. He'd just gotten back from Peru with some ayahuasca and invited me to sit in a ceremony with him, which I definitely had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea it would change my life completely overnight. And in that ceremony, it was not an easy ceremony. You know, people like to think about ayahuasca sometimes as being easy, though it never is. And they like to think about it as being, you know, lights and patterns and gods and goddesses and whatever, forest spirits, and it sometimes is. But in this ceremony, I was more or less thrust into a series of visions that were horrific in a big way. And I have to say that even though they were horrific, I was not horrified. I was understanding where I was and what I was doing. But these visions were three-dimensional, totally realistic, and very earth-based. You know, and it started off, I wrote about this in my first book, Trust and Forgive, but it started off in a Nazi concentration camp where I was a Jew being herded into the death camp. And you know, I don't want to say too much about it because I'll give the book away and I don't want to do that.
Right.
But it started to process, and then it went from that into multiple past lifetime experiences. I'm not going to say they're past lifetimes because who knows what those things are. I don't claim to be a past life therapist or a past life believer or a believer that ayahuasca is going to show me my past lives. But it did show me something I needed to see. And that was the power of forgiveness. even in the most horrific, wrong, horrible situations. So I did start thinking about that afterwards, and I thought about it a lot for several years and started writing a screenplay because I live in Los Angeles. They kick you out of here if you don't have at least one screenplay written.
Yeah.
So I, I'm joking, they don't. But
Yeah.
I started writing a screenplay, and I'd go to
Mhm.
my favorite neighborhood coffee shop and restaurant every morning at 6 o'clock when they opened. And I'd sit there with my pen and pad and then my laptop eventually writing away at this screenplay. And I thought it was good. It wasn't. Nobody wanted it. And I put it aside. Um, and then, I wrote Trust and Forgive and thought to myself, what's next? And
Mhm.
remembered I had this screenplay sitting on my computer. And I thought, well, I'll just convert this into a novel.
Mhm.
Little did I know how challenging that would be
Mhm.
and how much it would like pull me from the depths of my being to write this. So I wrote this novel, Feather on the Heart, it's called. It's completely fictional with some of my ceremony experiences modified for the book. And it's the story of a man in Los Angeles who has a wife and a daughter. And mysteriously, his daughter starts having these horrible dreams and deteriorating physically.
Mhm.
And at the same time, he, in a drunken haze, has a vision of this woman who says, you must go to Peru to save your daughter. And the rest of the book is about his journey to Peru
Mhm.
and what happened to him there and how he almost lost his life and several times, a couple times anyway, and how in the course of those experiences, he ended up finding his daughter's lost soul, discovering why his daughter's soul was captured by the kind of like stereotypical wicked shaman
Mhm.
and saved her, but
Yeah.
saved her in a way that definitely related to the concepts in Trust and Forgive.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and
So
I shouldn't have
profound.
said that much already because I already gave away the ending. I don't,
Well, it still leaves enough of a mystery to know like what exactly is
there's a lot to
happening.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it sounds like something that has just so many layers to it that it's one of those books I feel like you'd have to probably read to understand the nuances of it. But I want to go back to the ayahuasca ceremony, and you said, the experiences you had highlighted areas that you needed to forgive. Did it prior to that experience, were you aware of forgiveness being something that you needed to embody more, or was this just an eye-opening experience where you can now see yourself from more clarity? Before we get back to today's conversation, I want to share something for the woman listening who keeps finding herself in this pattern. If you're the peacekeeper, the dependable one, the person everyone relies on, but you're exhausted from always putting yourself last, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. Many women know exactly what they need, but struggle to choose it when guilt, fear, or old patterns take over. That's why I created Self Respect Reset, a step by step course to help you build self trust, navigate guilt, and honor your needs without second guessing yourself afterward. If you're tired of knowing what you need but struggling to follow through, I'd love to support you. You can learn more at drkellykessler.com/self-respect-reset. Now let's get back to today's episode.
It was way eye opening.
Mm-hmm.
It was way eye opening. And, the idea of forgiveness is so important. And I don't know that very many people have had experiences that illuminated how deep the process is.
Mm-hmm.
Like most people, I think, or many people think somebody does you wrong. You want to keep the friendship, so you say, and they apologize, and you say, I accept your forgiveness. And that's the end of it. And normally that is the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
However, when the source of the wound is cosmic, call it, is ancient, it's more difficult because you have what I would call righteous anger.
Mm-hmm.
Like take that first vision, the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When in that ceremony I was told to trust and forgive,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, F you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to forgive this. This is horrific.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I couldn't escape. That was part of that vision. I could not escape that vision. I could not change the station. I could not look for the pretty lights and
Yeah.
everything around me was so beautiful, beautiful songs, beautiful music, beautiful location. And there I was in the middle of hell.
Mm.
And I couldn't change stations on it. So, repeatedly in that vision, trust and forgive, trust and forgive. What do I do? How do I get out of here? Trust and forgive. Am I expected to forgive Hitler? Trust and forgive.
Mm.
And at some point, I realized that I wasn't being asked to forgive in the normal, I'm sorry, I forgive you sort of thing. I was being asked to completely and totally release every aspect of that vision that existed in me
Mm.
and in my family and in my ancestors.
Mm.
And as soon as I understood that and released that to the river of time, it happened. It's no longer happening
Mm-hmm.
as it was in that vision. It's no longer happening. So as soon as I understood that what release meant, what trust and forgive meant, the whole thing dissolved. It just vanished as though it never existed.
Mm. After that ceremony, the experience you had, did that, like, I know you said it's a process of that trust and forgiveness. Were you completely engrossed in that experience as if it was still happening, even beyond the ceremony, to the point to where until you learned how to trust and forgive?
It was pretty complete in that ceremony up
Yeah.
to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, the second aspect of that happened without ceremony a number of years later when a friend of mine gave me a therapeutic session for my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And as I usually do, I jump into things before I understand what I'm jumping into. And I jumped into this thing. And um, in that ceremony, I went back to where the book starts.
Mm-hmm.
The Feather on the Heart starts, which is 500,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say anything about that because it'll give it away. I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. But I went that far back in that ceremony, didn't resolve it.
Mm.
Didn't resolve it. I came out of the experience like screaming. The
Mm-hmm.
pain was so deep and so intense, and the betrayal was so deep and so intense. And then a number of years after that, the coincidences of this are so fascinating.
Yeah.
So I forgot about that. Used it in the screenplay,
Mm-hmm.
and in the screenplay got up to the point of that vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
That 500,000 years ago or whatever it was, a long time ago, vision in that healing work, no medicine,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and didn't know where to go, didn't know how to proceed with it.
Mm-hmm.
So several years later, like I think 10 years later, a friend of mine asked me if she could borrow my house for a Sunday and use it for her teacher who was coming into town to do a class there
Mm-hmm.
over the weekend. And that was fine with me because I wasn't going to be there because I was going to a seminar in downtown Los Angeles on nutritional medicine. So I said, sure. Sunday comes, the class is supposed to go till 5 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, they'd covered everything and said, just go home. This is it. We've done
Mm-hmm.
everything. I went home and found like 10 people sitting in my living room, looking very profound, looking very much like they'd just gone through Dante's levels of hell and were coming out of it. and they were talking a bit, and I'm sitting there like, hmm, this is weird to have this going on in my home. I don't know if I like this or not.
Yeah.
It happened to be my birthday. Just happened to
Yeah.
be my
Right.
birthday,
Yeah.
right? So when it came time they were going to break up into groups of two and work on each other, the teacher looks at me and says, "Well, birthday boy, I'll work on you." And I said, "Okay," I didn't expect much. I lay down on the table, and the technique she was using was just holding points on the back of the neck for an hour, essentially. So she's holding these points. As soon as she touches these points, I think to myself, this is familiar. I've experienced this before, and wham, I was back there 500,000 years ago
Mm-hmm.
on the table. I didn't know I was on the table anymore. It was 3D real.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked through not only my forgiveness of that experience, which I looked at as being the primal wound, but I also worked through my screenplay
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
at the same time and knew where I had to go with it.
Mm.
So she finished. I opened up my eyes. I looked at her and said, "We've done this before, hey?" And it was the same person that I had that experience with 10 years earlier on my birthday.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Like come full circle.
I'm full
Yeah.
circle. And so that led to the rest of the screenplay, which led to the rest of the novel, which got a whole lot more complex than a screenplay because it's a 350-page book instead of a 90-page screenplay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the story.
It's fascinating. I mean, there's so many things I could ask, and just something that came to me is when we're living our life today, how do we know if there is ancestral wounds or things in our past that we are unaware of that need healing, and we're trying to move forward in this life, and maybe we're feeling that resistance, maybe we're feeling the uneasy, or just something that doesn't feel right. How do we know to look toward that direction?
I'll start that off with saying there is.
Yeah.
There definitely is. It would be
Hmm.
impossible, unless you were a brand new, newly created soul who came down here for the first time
Hmm.
to live your first incarnation as a being, any kind of being, which I
Hmm.
don't think is possible.
Right.
You have ancestral wounds. They're there. We're at the right now. I wouldn't say we're at the end of it, but we're at the point where we have hundreds of thousands of years of lived history in some way stored in our DNA or in our energetic body,
Hmm.
something like that. I don't claim to know exactly what it is, but we have that. We have these wounds of the past, and we have all the wounds from this life, which is enough for
Right.
anybody.
Yeah.
We have the wounds of watching a horror movie too young.
Hmm. Yeah.
I've seen so many people who walk through life terrified because they saw a horror movie when they were a kid and shouldn't have and never
Yeah.
processed it. So how to know if it's past lifetime? Number one, assume that there is stuff there.
Hmm.
Number two, don't necessarily blame your present circumstances for past life stuff
Hmm.
when you have not worked out things in this life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And number three, to me, it's like if you have done a lot of work and you've through therapy, through whatever techniques there are now, whatever types of therapy there are now, through medicine work, whatever. And there's still that inner feeling of angst and discomfort going on. Perhaps that can be explored.
Hmm.
And it's tricky because it can't be explored intellectually. How many people, how many
Runaway
people,
Mike.
my mic stand is broken. How many people believe that they were the queen of Egypt or the king of whatever. Very few people, when they do past life therapy, discover that they were a janitor in New York City.
Mhm.
Everybody
Yeah.
has these grandiose ideas.
Hmm.
So it's not about intellectually creating a story. It's about using your focus and awareness to explore the feelings deep inside through
Mhm.
sensate awareness, we could call it now, but explore those feelings deep inside that don't seem to have any explanation, don't seem to have any reason. And from what I've seen with so many people is if you can stay with that feeling long enough, there is the possibility, not the absolute possibility, probability, but possibility of recognizing images,
Mhm.
feelings, realizations that are not years of this lifetime.
Mhm. Yeah.
What they are, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't claim to know. I don't think it's possible to know
Mhm.
with 100% accuracy that that was a past life. But if it comes up, it's something.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
from what
something.
I'm hearing from you is when you had all those experiences, it's like you have the dots, and then the more experiences you have, the more awareness you have of that, it seems that you can connect the dots a little bit easier and see some of those patterns that might exist in you from what it seems like. And the one experience you talked about where your first experience at ayahuasca and you're in that concentration camp and having this experience that is horrendous. Was there fear that you were experiencing when you felt like you were in it, or was it there a neutrality? What was that experience as far as emotions?
Oddly, there was not fear.
Yeah.
There was curiosity.
Hmm.
There was not liking it a single bit.
Hmm.
It was not a pleasant experience. It was not an I'm freaking out, I'm having a bad trip experience either. It was, what is this?
Hmm.
Why am I experiencing this? And I did question, was this a past lifetime I had? The timeline could work out.
Hmm.
I got to a place where I had to go, I don't know, whatever it is, I'm experiencing it. I'm seeing this, I'm feeling it, I'm hearing it. I wasn't smelling it, thank God, but
Hmm.
everything else was there,
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
wow.
and I just became incredibly offended that I was there
Hmm.
in a way that the medicine took me there because it wasn't what I'd signed up for. My friend had said, it's going to be so beautiful. You'll go through this and this and this and that and this. And I was in hell.
Hmm.
Uh, but it had a theme to it. And when I completely released and forgave that particular theme, there was another one.
Hmm.
And it went on probably 5 to 10 different times. I don't remember exactly,
Hmm.
but Rome, Babylon, Native Americans getting wiped out, all of these really horrific things people have done to other humans. And each one of those took the same degree of being willing and able to release.
Hmm. Yeah.
And without words, I never said I forgive you. I think that would have blocked the process because that would have been intellectual.
Hmm.
But it was this full on, like, my hands were tightly holding on
Hmm.
inside, not these hands.
Hmm.
My hands were tightly holding on. It was the process of like just okay, release it.
Yeah.
And when it was over, I was in a state of such beauty.
Hmm.
It was so beautiful. And a weight that I didn't know I'd been carrying was not completely lifted because there was certainly a lot more to do,
Hmm.
but it was lifted. For example, there was another time in ceremony, not too long ago, well, maybe a while ago, actually, if I think about it, where I was with a friend and we were going to do a ceremony together and maybe work together. And I took her medicine, which had some plants in it I wasn't familiar with. And it was so intense, like
Hmm.
too intense. For the first time, I was convinced I was going to physically die from the medicine, from ayahuasca and whatever else was in there. And I'm standing up, walking around, going outside, going inside, going outside, going inside. And she's like watching me. She was very good. She
Hmm.
is very good still,
Yeah.
watching me. And then finally she said, well, tell me about your ancestors. And instantly, I was my grandmother hiding under her bed in a village in Russia or Poland when the Cossacks were coming down to do a pogrom, slaughter the Jews.
Mm.
I found out afterwards that that did happen.
Wow.
She
Wow.
survived, obviously, because I'm here.
Hmm.
You know,
Wow.
and my realization in that was so deep because in my utilizing that trust and forgive process with her as a child hiding under the bed, being beyond terrified,
Hmm.
and she never fully recovered from that
Hmm.
emotionally. I mean, how could you?
Hmm.
And but I realized that even though she had passed already, that in my doing that work in some way, maybe in a big way, it benefited her soul and spirit
Hmm.
and helped her release that weight that she had been carrying her entire life.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
how deep this stuff can go.
Hmm.
And again, I have to say, is it real? It seems real.
Yeah.
It sure seems real.
Hmm.
Can I prove it? Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Although discovering that had happened to her when I didn't know it had happened to her was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, such confirmation and validation of that experience. And again, I think we can make the argument of like what is real. I mean, it's anything is real through the lens of the consciousness we see it through. So to you, if it's real, it's real. And that's the beauty of that. You get to create those experiences. And if it's therapeutic and it's helping, then that's that's that growth within that can be so profound. And I want to go back to that trust and forgiveness because the idea of releasing and letting go, well, like cognitively, it may seem so simple, but I know from my experience, it's can be very challenging to let go, especially when we're living in this 3D realm of our thoughts and all the things we're experiencing. Can you share some insight that you gained of like I know you said it wasn't happening intellectually, but like how does someone who's listening that maybe is holding on to anger or resentment or anything that they're experiencing, how do they begin to let go and release?
I think the first step is to divorce from the storyline because the storyline is now in the past. You know, whatever wound happened in the past is in the past.
Mhm.
And it's hard to recognize that because for more severe traumas, it's brought into the present over and over and over again by the mind, by the thought process, by memory.
Mhm.
So, but recognizing number one, it's in the past.
Mhm.
You know, often when I'm doing ceremonies and people go through this kind of stuff and we're doing the integration the next day, and, you know, I'll often hold up the bottle of medicine and say, all that's in here is two plants and water.
Mhm.
Everything else was in you.
Mhm.
You know, people will often say ayahuasca took me through it. She tortured me. She punished me. She did this. No, it's just two plants and water in that bottle that connects us to a very profound intelligence that has the ability to show us these things. So divorce, let me go back to, I like to talk about ayahuasca a lot, obviously. um, go back to your question is number one, divorce from the story
Mhm.
line. Not that it didn't happen, it happened. It's not happening now.
Mhm.
And number two, being willing to sit with everything that you feel about it, which could take minutes, seconds, weeks, months, or years.
Mhm.
But to sit with the feeling inside, every memory, every trauma seems to center in one or more places in the physical body,
Mhm.
seems to lodge there, let's say,
Mhm.
and to allow that feeling to be there, to get to a place where you can witness it with some degree of, I'm going to make up a word,
Mhm.
dispassionality,
Mhm. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
you know, with some degree of I don't know what word to use there, actually, just passionness, some degree of
Yeah.
dispassion, we'll just say, with some
Mhm.
degree of
Yeah.
dispassion,
Mhm.
so that you are taking the place of the witness. You are witnessing it. And not reconnecting it to the story
Mhm.
and to blame and to guilt and to hatred
Mhm.
and to whatever other emotions come around trauma.
Right.
I'm witnessing it, I'm sitting with it, I'm being with it.
Mhm.
And I think if a person can do that long enough and deep enough,
Mhm.
they can discharge that particular trauma out of their body.
Mhm.
And excuse me, sometimes it needs help. Sometimes it needs that person with their hands on you, or the medicine in the bottle, or therapy, or whatever it is. But sometimes it needs help. And certainly the various forms of energetic discharge healing, somatic sensing from Peter Levine, the somatic point holding therapies, ayahuasca, mushrooms, whatever it is, can really help accelerate and focus the process.
Mhm.
We don't tend to have focused minds for most people, and sitting with something that's uncomfortable is difficult. So it
Mhm.
may take somebody saying, well, let's come back to this gently.
Yeah. Yeah.
What doesn't seem to work in my experience, and I reserve the right to change my mind about this at any
Mhm.
point, but what doesn't work in my experience is going through an emotional catharsis around something,
Mhm.
yelling and screaming and hollering and beating a pillow or beating your therapist or
Mhm.
whatever it is, does not seem to help. It seems to me that just recreates the trauma, or re-intensifies the trauma, the place where it's being held. It's a
Mhm.
totally different system to almost use that feeling in the body, well, not almost, but use that feeling in the body as a point of meditation, as a point of focus, as a point of concentration,
Mhm.
and cycle in and out of it without re-traumatizing. That's really important, because re-traumatizing is always going to be a danger in these sorts of therapies, these sorts of works.
Yeah.
And I have not seen that helps at all.
Mhm.
Side note, I used to go to ayahuasca ceremonies where people would be encouraged to yell and scream. And what I noticed in those is that people yelled and screamed for years,
Mhm. Yeah.
versus like, okay, you're feeling it. Sit still. Don't move a muscle. Breathe. Stay with it. Stay with it. Stay with it. Stay with it.
Yeah.
Stay with the music. Stay with your breath. Stay with what you're feeling.
Mhm.
And because we are creatures that are programmed to heal, don't ask me who did the programming.
Yeah.
But because we are creatures that have been programmed to seek healing, with awareness, things can heal.
Mhm.
And I believe with enough awareness, anything can heal. And we can break this 500,000-year-old cycle
Mhm.
and no
Yeah.
longer need to traumatize ourselves in order to heal, or in
Mhm.
order to attempt to heal.
Right. And
Something something brilliant Peter Levine, I think, came up with is that, the act of re-traumatizing, the act of letting go, are two different things.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that awareness itself heals.
Mhm. Yeah. With that, I'm curious with just the ayahuasca, like when you go into that, if you have someone who's maybe more closed off or not willing to look inward at themselves and they use ayahuasca, will that decrease the resistance to that, or will that maybe not quote, work as well because of that initial resistance to look inward when using it?
Yeah. I can say it's why when I work with people, I do it very carefully. I try to do it very carefully.
Mhm.
We're dealing with a jungle medicine that's unpredictable.
Yeah.
But my ideal is that a person's first ceremony is very gentle.
Mhm.
I don't always succeed at that, but I try. but it's
Yeah.
very gentle and very inward focused and very beautiful,
Hmm.
so that they develop a relationship and a trust with the medicine. And, like the old cliche about the onions, it's one layer at a time. And sometimes the onion gets smashed and you do everything all at once in one evening.
Hmm.
But usually it's a matter of unpeeling things. With therapy also, it's like one realization at a time, one layer at a time,
Hmm.
uh, one discharge at a time, one forgiveness at a time.
Hmm. And I know you mentioned,
And
oh, I'm sorry. Good.
no, go ahead.
I know you mentioned after that initial ceremony where you experienced the forgiveness and the trust, that after that experience that was very uncomfortable, you felt very light and freeing. Did that feeling last, or did you tend to go back to the patterns that you were living prior to the ceremony?
Yes and yes.
Hmm.
Yes
Yeah.
and yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's one ceremony doesn't accomplish total healing. I'm still
Hmm.
working with stuff
Hmm.
decades later,
Yeah.
and I feel like in some ways each person is carrying the weight of the world in their gut, is carrying everybody,
Hmm.
everything all at once inside of them. Thank God we're not aware of it all the time, or very rarely are aware of that, or maybe even never aware of that. But how many of the great ones from the past have said, my healing is your healing is my healing?
Hmm.
Because we are, I have my individual story, which is enough for me, really, it is.
Right.
I have my individual story, but I also, in a big way, have everything's story,
Hmm.
because we're not limited to time and space. That's one of the illusions that we get that make living possible in this plane.
Hmm.
But we're not limited to time and space. And it's so interesting because often doing these works, I'll have flashes of things that make absolutely no sense to me. And I can't put a label on them. I can't think this is, even sometimes meditation, this happens. I can't put a label on it. I can't understand it,
Hmm.
but I can still be there with it and allow forgiveness to happen,
Yeah.
even if it totally seems like it's not mine. And if we go into the Vedantic idea, the South Asian idea of we've all been each other and we've all been everything, we've all been through millions of lifetimes, and we're all carrying that with us all the time. And those are the sanskaras, the wounds on our soul. And like perhaps every possible story is somewhere encoded into me
Hmm.
or included in me. I don't want to use encoded because that has weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything is included in me in some way, in what Jung may have called the universal unconscious mind.
Hmm.
Whose unconscious mind is it? If it's the universal unconscious mind, it's mine too.
Hmm.
It's in me. And it becomes a very interesting process, because how deep can the healing go?
Hmm.
How long does it take? And if this is true, this idea is true, that we are dealing with a universal unconscious mind, the mind that reaches from the smallest cells in our smallest atoms in our body, the smallest quarks and muons and whatever else there is, out to the farthest reaches of the end of this universe and all other universes. If we're dealing with that, healing is an infinite process. Because here's the good part, and this is what I really want people to take away from this, is like the healing, when it is accomplished, is beautiful.
Hmm.
It's beauty. It takes you to states of beauty that you couldn't get to from holding on to your pain and your stories. And the beauty itself becomes healing. And the beauty, if I may use a very loaded term, that beauty is God.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if God is infinite, then how much beauty is it possible for a human being to experience?
Mhm.
There's no end.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
no there's no timeline where it says, okay, that's all you get.
Mm-hmm.
It's never as good as it gets. There's
Yeah.
always deeper levels of beauty. That's why, even though I've done more ayahuasca ceremonies than I would ever tell anybody at this point in my life,
Mm-hmm.
um, each one I learn something. Each one something changes. Each one is profound.
Mm-hmm.
Each one takes me deeper into that beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And so, will I ever be done? I don't want to ever be done.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
I don't want to be ever done.
Mm-hmm.
I want to prepare my vessel, my body, my soul, my whatever lasts after this body is gone. I want to continually prepare that for accepting more and more of that beauty, more and
Mm-hmm.
more of that love, that pure, perfect, infinite love,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in which there is no shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So, if
Yeah.
in that love there is no shadow, if in that light there is no shadow, then what are we talking about
Mm-hmm.
with all of these past lifetimes and visions and karmas and wounds and sanskaras? And we're talking about something that in reality, big R,
Mm-hmm.
big R, big E, big A, dot, dot,
Mm-hmm.
dot, in that reality, they don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
They're shadow.
Yeah.
And when the light is on, the shadow ceases to exist.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go away. It's not destroyed. It isn't like those movies where it's like lightsabers or,
Yeah.
things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that shadow ceases to exist. That
Yeah.
vision that I had of Nazi Germany ceased to exist
Mm-hmm.
inside of me. I can still recall it, of course, for storytelling and demonstration purposes, but
Yeah.
it ceased to exist inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
Where did it go? It went to where it came from, which is illusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is the idea of Maya if it isn't that all these things of the mind are illusion?
Mm-hmm. Right. And is it only through that shadow and the experiencing the contrast that we can that we can then experience the love? Like, do we need to experience that in order to see what the other side is of that?
Well, the love is already there. The love is
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that's so hard for us to understand. Infinite love is inside of us
Yeah.
right now,
Mm-hmm.
at every moment, with every breath we take, because that's all that truly exists from the beginning of this universe to whenever it ends, if it ends,
Mm-hmm.
but that's all that exists is that infinite love. It's hidden behind these curtains of
Mm-hmm.
illusion, of Maya.
Mm-hmm.
So overcoming illusion, I believe, is deeply tied into this concept of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That illusion, then what is the experience of the illusion? Do we need to go through that illusion then to experience the lesson of forgiveness, or what? I mean, it's a loaded question. Like, what is the
Yeah.
purpose of us all living with this ancestral illusion if the truth of us is love? Why are we all trying to release so much of the illusion? Yeah, I don't know. There might not be an answer. Maybe it's just the answer of life, like the mystery of life. Yeah. Yeah. Mind blown. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what is the purpose? Is there a purpose?
Yeah.
It is what it is, and I hate to use that term, but
Yeah.
it is exactly what it is. It's there.
Hmm.
It seems to have reality
Hmm.
in the way that we're talking about it. It doesn't really exist.
Hmm.
What's the purpose? I don't claim to understand or have any clue about that, other than I know that that inner part of my soul that desires the desire for pure love desires the desire for freedom, desires the desire for understanding, desires the desire for liberty, real liberty. That's what I have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Will there some point be a great reveal? And I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
Yeah.
there's an awakening that will change everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I know from what I've experienced in my life, it's a step by step by step by step process.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It can be incredibly entertaining.
Mm-hmm. The patterns that you saw that you forget I guess the forgiveness and the trust, like, did you see things in your younger versions of yourself that were playing out until you had that clarity? Did you see repeated patterns that maybe you weren't aware of before?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what they were, but
That's
definitely.
fine. You don't have to. Yeah, no, I'm just curious because again, just it's interesting, like when you're listening to this, I hope that anyone listening to it is using it as a mirror of like, well, what am I not noticing? What are some of the patterns I'm not aware of? So that way you can have that greater clarity. What do I need to forgive? What do I need to learn to trust? And have that as a reflection of their own life and see that within themselves. And I want to go back to your book and, without giving anything away, what is something that someone would walk away from in that book? What would the emotional parts of that they could come away from with greater clarity?
I think they'll walk away from it having seen a character going through something very much like this process.
Mhm.
They'll see somebody who had a life, had a nice, regular life, no big problems, suddenly being confronted with his daughter's dying. And nobody knows what to do, nothing's helping. And he has to take on the hero's role in the story. It turns out he's not the real hero. That's the surprise. But he
Interesting.
has to take on
Yeah.
the hero's journey and come into that process himself.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, maybe I could I'm thinking maybe I'll read a little bit, but
Yeah.
I didn't plan that.
It's okay. Yeah. If you have a segment that you want to share,
Yeah,
if
I'll read a little bit.
yeah.
So they're in the office with the psychiatrist,
Hmm.
and the psychiatrist has no idea what to do, and the daughter, whose name is Angela, is getting increasingly strange, sometimes in a pretty hilarious way, but she's getting increasingly strange. And the doctor is recognizing that she has no idea what to do anymore. So Dr. Lau turned to the adults. I want to be very clear, she said, and she heard the formality in her own voice. And she heard the formality in her own voice like a handrail. We've tried the appropriate first steps. We've talked about sleep hygiene, dietary changes, gentle routines. Angela has participated beautifully. You've both been consistent. We're at a point where I'm not satisfied that I can explain what she's describing within my field alone. It would be irresponsible to keep this in a purely psychological lane. So what are you saying? Carol's eyes were frightened. I'm recommending a medical workup. I can go on with this, but I just want to get the idea of the desperation that's going on there.
Hmm.
And now we're talking after she leaves, after the family leaves. Dr. Lau stood a moment with her hand on the chair back. She could feel the warmth where Angela, the child, shoulder had nearly touched. She realized only then that the cup still sat uncovered on the desk, the faint tea scent gone cool in the air. She poured from the thermos, topped the cup, and cradled it between her palm, breathing in the steam. The smell carried her back to her parents' shop, parentheses in China. Jars of ginseng and chrysanthemum and dried orange peel, tins of oolong stacked behind the counter, the faint dust of herbs in the air. Her father bending over the brass scale, her mother arranging tea packets, both once doctors, now shopkeepers, still tending to whoever walked in. They had given her this mug, the crane, the scroll, all the inheritance they could pass on. Her gaze lifted to the scroll on the wall, black strokes firm against the paper. She read the whole line, this time, softly first in Chinese, then again, her breath catching on the words. When a great physician treats illness, she must first calm her spirit and set her will, without desire, without seeking reward. And it goes on, of course, on and on and on. But there's, I was able to write this book in several different styles, which I didn't know I could do.
Mhm.
And each section, each storyline has its own style running through it.
Yeah.
So that's Dr. Lau's style.
Yeah, I love it. It's like it like draws you in. It's like, okay, what's happening? What's the deeper message in it? Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And for someone who's listening and they're feeling drawn, they want to buy your book, where can they find it and where can they find you?
They can find it on Amazon
Hmm.
or Goodreads. Just
Hmm.
search Feather on the Heart.
Hmm.
It's the only book called Feather on the Heart so far on Amazon. There's a few musicians with albums, but it's the only book.
Yeah.
And you can pre-purchase it right now for a discount price. Its publishing date is June 23rd. So if you pre-purchase it for Kindle, you'll get it put onto your Kindle on June 23rd. And that's the best way to do it. You can also go to Goodreads, and if you want to help me out a little bit, click want to read, and that helps the algorithms push it a bit.
Yeah.
The scariest thing about publishing is the algorithms, and
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hoping they understand who this is for and
you know,
getting into the right eyes. Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Well, I'm going to put everything in the show notes. So for anyone listening, definitely grab your copy of the book, definitely pre-order it because I know that makes a big difference and start to, really what I love is that fiction. I've read fiction. I'm always usually a nonfiction reader, and then I read some fiction books, and it's so interesting how it really gets into your subconscious mind when you're seeing that play out through someone else's life. But these are all things that you can feel and experience in your own life as you hear the story of someone else. So I love that. And
we have another minute.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, go ahead.
I'll find it. I need to
Yeah.
find something in the book.
But yeah, no, and just again, definitely connect with Richard Grossman and share the book too and share this episode if you found this to be speaking to some part of you.
Um, 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 I don't know. I can't find it, but I have at the end, there's a note from the author that kind of lays out a lot of what we just talked about.
Yeah,
And one of the things I said is that creating it as a fiction allowed me to go places with it that reality wouldn't allow me to go.
yeah, yeah.
So
I love that. Like, and then you get to create those characters and the whole dynamic of it. But yeah, I think it's just really cool that you took something that was your real experience, but put it into a fiction novel to like expand on that and add that creativity into it. I think it's amazing. What you've read, it just really sounds amazing. So thank you so
yes,
much for
thank you.
sharing it, and I encourage everyone to go get your copy and connect. And again, thank you so much for everything you shared today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you
So
again
nice
for
to do this again with you. So nice.
yeah, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed our first conversation. And if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen. It was posted a few months ago, but we really dive into so much of the forgiveness and, forgiveness versus reconciliation and all that and really understanding your own patterns. So it's definitely a great episode to piggyback off of this one. So Thank you so much for everything you shared last time, this time, and it's been wonderful to reconnect with you.
Hopefully again for the next book someday, Kelly.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm excited for it. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If something in this episode stirred your truth, reminded you of your worth, or helped you see your patterns with more compassion, you're already rewiring your life. Remember, you don't have to earn your place, overgive to be valued, or shrink to keep the peace. You get to honor your voice, you get to protect your energy, you get to live aligned with who you really are. If you're ready to go deeper, explore more tools, or join a community of women walking this same path, head over to drkellykessler.com. Everything you need to continue this journey is waiting for you. Until next time, take a deep breath, trust yourself, and keep choosing the version of you who feels like home.